Okay. All right. So now let's dig deep onto it, and let's go ahead and understand. I'll probably share a couple of things or a couple of questions which are in general asked when you are in an interview. Okay, those are specific to the Fortigate firewall. Okay, so we are going to talk about those questions which are normally asked in an interview. All right, and now it all depends on what kind of profile or job profile that you're working with. So there are a couple of questions which remain constant, which remains, you know, which basically remains fixed. Doesn't matter which profile that you are on. Okay. And then slowly and gradually, it depends on the profile. They'll be asking a little specific questions. So what we have done is that the questions that we have right now, this is applied to any job profile. If it is Fortigate firewall, if the interview that you're going to give is it on Fortigate firewall, or let's say for example there's a job profile and they're asking for multiple firewalls, right? And Fortigate is one of them. Okay, so these questions are going to help you out on that. Okay, so let's move on and let's start. Okay, see, whenever we are talking about the interview, all right, whenever there is an interview happening, we have to understand that what exactly is that the interviewer is trying to figure out when he's asking questions to you. What exactly is it that he's trying to figure out from you? Okay, so any interview, doesn't matter which device that you're working on. If you are in the IT security or network security field, all right, the interview is basically categorized, or I should say divided in some parts. One is the conceptual. Okay, the conceptual basically is that the interview will always start off with what exactly the interview concepts, as in what is networking, and or what devices have you worked on. Okay, give me a little basic questions on basic understanding of the technology or the device. So it's more like a conceptual based. Okay, how does this work, how does that work, whatever device that it is. All right, then slowly and gradually within 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how exactly you are behaving, what kind of answers that you're providing. Okay, on the basis of that, interviewer takes up a decision in 5 minutes, that does he have to switch to the know-how, or does he have to stop the interview right here. Okay, so when I say know-how basically means that a little specific questions. All right, specific on the basis of what kind of what kind of specific feature on the firewall is working, how does that work. All right, so those kind of questions will start to come in. All right, so those are basically know-how. Now this know-how will can stretch it up to maybe 15 minutes. All right, so the know-how again depends on a specific feature, a specific functionality, or a specific option, how to enable that option, how to disable an option. Okay, so it's know-how about the product. Are you able to understand that if you need to enable or disable a feature, where do you need to go? Okay, on the firewall, in the GUI, where do you need to go? So that's know-how, specific know-hows. All right, next is scenario based. So 10 minutes of conceptual, 15 minutes of the know-how, so that's 25 minutes. And the next 20 minutes, or I mean it ranges between 10 minutes to 20 minutes, or it can go above 30 minutes also. So you come across something which is called a scenario based. Okay, the scenario based is nothing but questions which are very much specific to a network situation. Okay, a situation where everything was working fine, but there was a problem. Okay, and how do you fix a problem? Okay, so that kind of question comes up. Now, the reason, or the reason behind why this kind of question comes up is because that the interviewer is trying to figure out that when it comes to the situations when there is a problem, how do you fix that? What is your logical approach towards it? Okay, so that's what the interview is trying to figure out. All right, so the scenario based, all right, over here, the scenario based is nothing but logical approach. They're not looking for a how intense, deep troubleshooting they have, done. They're not looking for that. What they're looking for is what exactly is the logical approach that you have, that you're using. Okay, is it are you going step by step? Are you going technically, what needs to be the next step, or you're just trying, something? They're randomly you're trying something, and if it fixes the issue, great. Okay, so scenario based questions is all about the logical approach. Okay, if the interviewer feels that you're going random, okay, just trying out stuff, he'll probably disqualify you. Although the interview may, go up till 45 minutes, or even it can go to 60 minutes. Okay, it doesn't matter. He won't qualify you. Why? Because he's looking for, are you going for a logical approach, or are you going random, just trying out stuff? Okay, if you are going random, if the interviewer categorizes you in the random part, then he'll probably not, you know qualify you. So if he is not able to find anything, and there's a scarcity of a resource, and there's nobody else, okay, then probably maybe he may select you. But then in most of the situations, 90% of the time, he may not select you even after going 60 minutes or even 1 hour, more than that. Okay, so what in a scenario based is basically an interview looking for your logical approach. How do you proceed? How do you approach a problem? He's not really looking for how intensively or how deep you went into the problem, how technically deep you are able to understand the problem. No, what he's looking for is the logical approach. How do you figure out a problem? Or let's say, for example, you are working on a situation, okay, where you are not really sure of uh, the issue. You're not really sure of what exactly the issue is. Okay, and if that's the case, what's your approach? If you do not know a problem, how do you approach that? That's what the interviewer is looking for. And you will find this kind of, so any interview which is for an L2 or maybe an L3, okay, or maybe an escalation engineer, okay, they're not looking for how many technical know-how you have. I mean, that's given because you are going for an L2 or L3. They are expected, it's expected that you should know a little more than anybody who is having 8 years or 10 years of experience, and they have worked on certain devices. They expect you to have the basics set of knowledge and a little bit more. Okay, but in the L2 or L3 profiles, or L4 profiles, escalation engineers, what they're looking for is the approach. That's what it is. Okay, know-hows are very specific. Okay, specific features, specific functionality, how to enable, how to disable, and conceptual is basically networking. Okay, mostly networking based, or even it could also be whatever firewall that you're working on, concepts about that particular firewall. How does that particular feature work? How does HA work? How does NAT works on Fortigate firewall or Palo Alto firewall or whatever it is. Okay, so that's conceptual. Okay. Is this much clear? All of you, give me a yes or no in the chat box. Do you now understand what is conceptual, what is know-how, and what is scenario based? Because all of you will basically go through all these stages, right? Yeah. Now let's come to the list of questions that we have. Yeah. All right. See, although these are the ones which is asked in major interviews, all right, but I cannot pinpoint that this is the only questions that will be asked. Okay, I mean, I can basically give you a list of 50 questions or 100 questions on the Fortigate firewall, all right, but that's not the criteria. The criteria is that you should know the most asked questions, one, and how do you approach that question. Okay, because that's where the game is. They're not looking for how much do you know, they're looking for what kind of answers do you give. Are they precise, are they specific, and what is your logical approach? That's pretty much it. Okay, all right, so let's move on, and let's understand that when we have these kind of questions, how do you work on it. Okay, so let's read out the questions that we have. All right. First, what is the next generation firewall? Okay. They'll probably start off with these kind of questions. All right. Explain the differences between an NGFW and a traditional firewall. What is a UTM? What is security fabric? Okay. What is FGCP cluster? Okay. Or what is FGCP? Just that. Or what is an HA cluster? Okay. These kind of questions will come up. What are the various steps that should be taken by any user before performing an upgradation for the firmware or the Fortnite security firewall? So what basically they are looking for is, the best practice. They're looking for best practices. Whenever you are going for an upgrade, what is it that you go? What is it that use, or what steps do you go? What are the implementation methods that you use? All those kind of things. Okay. Now, how to take a backup of the Fortnite firewall configuration? Now, this is more like a concept-based or a know-how based question where it's very specific as to what exactly the option is, where to go, what feature you have to use, and all that stuff. What happens if the disk logging is disabled in the Fortigate? Again, specific, right? That, okay, I have a Fortigate firewall, my disk logging is not there, what will happen? Okay, looks pretty simple, right? I mean, Fortigate logging is disabled, what will happen? Okay, but if you understand this deeply, what they are looking for is that if there is a feature which is supposed to work, and if that feature is not working, how would you deal? If a feature is not working the way it is supposed to, how would you deal in that situation? That's what they're looking for. So if you give an answer for, this login is enabled, you can go ahead and enable, and that's it. Okay, it's a good answer. It's not wrong, but they're expecting a little more. Like, what else can you let me know? I mean, I even know that, okay, I can enable it, not a problem. But what else? Okay, so we'll talk about that as well. Next, how to ensure only selected IP can log in. So what they're looking for is, do you know? Looking for trusted host, right? So what it is, and what kind of answer do you need to give? Okay, we'll talk about that. What are the commands to be used to t-shoot? Okay, so it's very open. The interviewer has not given you any specific situation or scenario. They are just trying to figure out how much do you know on the Fortigate firewall. How much do you know? What kind of commands you will use? Because what happens is that a lot of times people, or the interviewer, or the engineers, they get into verbal diarrhea. Okay, they just spew out everything that they know. No, what you need to understand over here is that when they are asking for what commands to be used, they are looking for what are those primary tools, the major tools which can help you understand and figure out the problem easily and quickly. Okay, so you have to look for that. So what are those commands? We'll talk about that. What are the steps that should take before each upgrade of the firmware on the Fortnite firewall? Again, it's a little bit related. Okay, question over here is again about the best practices. Mention the steps for backup Fortigate firewall via GUI. Now see, it's very different. Okay, you can take backup from the GUI plus from the CLI as well, right? So how do you handle this kind of situation? Because a lot of times, the questions can be open, and they leave